Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Mark Pickering. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Heights College visiting from North Rockhampton in Queensland. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them throughout the war at the front. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozieres, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Henry Ernest Clifford Minerds. Henry Minerds was born on the 30th of April 1891 in Adelaide suburb of Theberton. Known as Harry, he was one of 7 children born to gardener's labourer James Edwin Bell Minerds and his wife Annie Elizabeth. Harry received his education at Mitcham Model School in Adelaide before being apprenticed to a cabinet maker in Hawthorn. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Harry was working as a chair and cabinet maker. Harry Minerds enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 28th of July 1915. He was assigned to reinforcements of the 10th Battalion. After a short period of training, he embarked for active service in October, sailing from Adelaide on board the troop ship Benalla. When Private Minerds arrived in Egypt, he joined the rest of the AIF who had recently been evacuated from Gallipoli. He was transferred to the newly formed 4th Division's 50th Battalion in February 1916. In June, they sailed to the city of Marseille and were immediately sent north to the Franco-Belgian border, entering the trenches in an area known as the Nursery Sector. Here, the 50th Battalion had its first experiences of war on the Western Front, spending periods of duty in the trenches as well as training and labouring behind the lines. Minerds' unit was drawn into fighting further south at Mouquet Farm. With heavily entrenched German defensive and machine gun positions, the farm was a deadly stronghold. The 50th Battalion mounted its first attacks in mid-August, suffering heavy casualties in the process. Minerds survived these initial clashes and was recognised for his contribution with a promotion to corporal, and then to sergeant before the month was over. His unit again fought at Mouquet Farm in September before withdrawing to Belgium. The 50th Battalion returned to France in November, in time for the onset of the bitterly cold winter. During this period, Minerds was selected for officer training and sent to England, avoiding a freezing stint in the trenches. He graduated from the course in early 1917 in March. He was commissioned to the rank of second lieutenant before spending time in hospital with tonsillitis. Minerds rejoined his unit on the Belgian front on the 11th of July and received his commission as lieutenant later that same month. He spent the next weeks rotating in and out of the front lines as the Allies defended the gains they had made. In September, Minerds was drawn back into the fighting when Allies attacked enemy positions at Polygon Wood, near Ypres, suffering almost 6,000 casualties in the process. In October, Minerds and his men were involved in further attacks at Broodcinder Ridge, which was similarly costly for Australian units. Following these attacks, the 50th Battalion spent time behind the lines recuperating. Minerds and his men moved back into the front lines on the 17th of October 1917. Having been on duty throughout the night before, Minerds returned to his dugout following morning to rest. Shortly after, the enemy began bombarding their position and Minerds' dugout was hit, burying him and his comrades. Those nearby rushed to pull him from the remains of the dugout, only to find that Lieutenant Minerds had suffered a fatal wound to the head. His body was taken back to battalion headquarters and buried the following day. When news of his death reached Australia, his family placed a poem for him in the Adelaide Chronicle. Take him, O beautiful France, close to your generous chest. Keep him, our dear brave boy, honoured, beloved and to rest. Under your glorious flag, under your red, white and blue, there with your own gallant lads, bury our dear Harry too. Harry Minerds was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died during the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant Harry Ernest Clifford Minerds, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.